So today we are going to learn about data-driven testing. Before going to do that, I'll just try to explain what is data-driven testing. Say for example, in real time, so we have to test an endpoint or we have to test an application with multiple sets of data. Okay. So in that case, one thing we can do is like pre-request script generate some random thing. But if I want to test an endpoint with a specific data, so that specific data we cannot generate it from pre-request script, right? So for that only, what we will do, we will define whatever the data we wanted to send it to the request so that we will save it in one file called csv or json file. So we will, by making use of this csv and json file, we will supply the values to that particular endpoint and we will test this. Say for example, in real time, when it will be exactly used is like, say for example, there is one login endpoint. Okay, so I need the functionality of this particular endpoint is to check the login. So whenever I pass, there are so many scenarios, right? Like while testing, we will come across so many scenarios by providing the valid credentials and invalid credentials and combination of credentials like that. So in that case, for the endpoints, I no need to come manually. I no need to pass those values, and I no need to pass those values, and I no need to check all those things. Such manual things we can avoid. So for that, what we can do, what are the sets of data is there? Say for example, valid data, both what username and password is valid, and with invalid data, and valid and invalid combination, and both are invalid combination. Okay, so say for example, this is what my test data contains. Both are valid, both are invalid. So then valid and invalid and valid. So this is what the test scenarios. So we can check whether it is accepting the special characters and all like that we can check. But majorly we will be focusing on these four things. Say for example, if I want to check my login page, so in that login page it expects a username and password. So after that I need to click on send. So that will take us to the home page or dashboard page, whatever it is. So the main our objective is to like test that particular page, right? Say for example, if they have implemented that particular page using this endpoints, we have to check that endpoint functionalities, right? So whether it is accepting which type of data like that. So like that, so many scenarios are there in real time. Say for example, if I consider this endpoint only, so this endpoint is what it is doing is it is creating one user in the database of whatever the value we are going to provide it to over here. So if I want to create some 100 users in the database with the value which I wanted to, so that values we can define it in CSV file. CSV file is nothing but a comma separated value, and or else we can pass it inside the JSON file. So that we will try now. So what I'll do for this endpoint only, we will do that automation. Okay. So data driven testing. So now where will go? We'll go to this notepad. Okay. So what is the very first field? So what is this endpoint is expecting? So name and job it is expecting. So for that, what I have to do? I have to define the field whichever I wanted to send the values. Okay. So name is first field. I have to send the value. Then again job. Okay. So comma separated is required. So what name I have to give, right? So name will give like say for example, if it is a job. Job is uh, like founder of founder. Let us assume it is a founder. So then comes Sundar Pichai. Okay. So what is his job is CEO. Okay. So like that. Uh, what we can do. Then comes say for example, someone is there called John. his job is director. So what I'll do, I'll save this file. Save this file inside the desktop. I'll save. So inside the desktop, I'll create one folder called API API test data. Okay. So inside this folder, I'll save this. So okay, you click on. You have to provide post endpoint data. This is getting slow today. Post endpoint test data. Make sure the extension should be CSV. Okay, as I am saving it in CSV. Later we will come to the JSON as well. For now we'll go with the CSV. Okay, the extension should be CSV, then save this file. Okay, so go back to the desktop and see whether that file is available or not. Okay, here is my folder which I created now. So if I open this, here I have that particular file. So whatever the data I entered. Okay, so if I open this file, okay, so this is the file, it is open. So there is a name column and there is a job column. First name is, name is Jagma and job is founder. And the second thing is Sundar and job is CEO. And third one is John and job is director. So now I have to make these values I need to supply to the post endpoints. That is what I have to do now. So now I'll go back to postman. So here what I'll do, I'll comment out all these things. Okay, these are not required. Okay, so I have commented out this particular line of code. So here I have to refer all those things, right? So whatever the value I specified over here. So here I have to give those names, right? So the very first thing is that this name, right? So name I have to refer over here. So here the same thing in the runtime, whenever we supply that particular file into this particular endpoint, so these values will be referred from the column names of that particular CSV. Say for example, this is the column name, right? For job, job, job. So these while running our endpoint, so these values will be supplied over here. In the first iteration, it will supply these values. In the second iteration, it will supply the values. And the third iteration, it will supply these values. Okay, so I'll save this and I'll go to the test. And this code also it is not useful, so I'll comment out this code as well. So instead of that, we will add our general scripts which it checks like status code and type and everything. Status code will check, so that one thing is fine. So then, so now we are coming into one more thing. Okay, so now before going to do that, I'll just explain one concept called runner collection runner in postman. collection runner in postman. What is collection runner in postman and why we need this collection runner in postman? Say for example, I have some 100 requests which is saved in one collection. So if I want to check the functionality of each and every endpoint, I need to go to each and every request and I need to click on send. I have to go to this particular endpoint. I need to click on send. I need to go to this particular endpoint. I need to click on send. Correct. So if I have 100 requests in that particular collection, then all 100 requests I have to go and I have to click. So inside the postman, we have one feature called runner. Here, if you see here, in the bottom right corner, we have something called runner. So if I click on this, it will open one window. Okay. So here, if I drag and drop this collection, say for example, this collection is having 100 requests, and if I click on start run, it will run one by one. We no need to go and we no need to send each and every request. We no need to do all such things. So in the same way, for post request, we have specified on data file, right? So the data file we have to pass it from here. So that is what we have to do. So if I pass that value from this particular place, those values will be referred to that particular post endpoint. Say for example, so here I am disabling that one. Okay, so those two things are not required for now. We will check that after this data driven testing. Okay, executing all the endpoints. Right now our concentration is to do the data driven testing, right? So this is the post endpoint. So for that we have one CSV file. So whatever the values are there in the CSV file, so as per that we have modified this particular request body. So in this particular place, all my values should be supplied over here. So for that, so here is my request. So it is saved. Okay, it is saved. So here I need to uh, so that particular file is available in my local system. So that file I need to send it to this request, right? So here we have one feature called data. So here we have to select that CSV file. I'll go to my desktop and API data and I'll select that CSV file. Okay, it is selected. Okay, so now one thing before going to do that. Okay. So as soon as we open this particular window, this iteration is showing as 1. Okay. So this delay is showing as 0. So this data is saying as select a file. I am selecting it. So you have to, one thing you have to notice here, as soon as I select this file, so this iteration will be, by default, it will be changed to 3. Why it is changing to 3? Because my data set contains 3 set of values. So that is the reason we are getting 3 iterations over here. So if my data file is having 100, so it will come as 100 over there. Okay, so that is the difference. So here we can preview the data. Okay, so here if you see here in the iteration 1, so I'll open my CSV as well. So this is the values we have given, right? So in the iteration 1, Jackma and founder will be supplied to these two variables, and second time Sundar and CEO will be supplied, and third time Jan and director will be sending. Okay, so here if you preview this, we are able to see whatever the values which will be supplied to these two variables. Okay, so here in advanced setting, so we have one feature called save responses. Okay, so the moment when we save the responses and click on run. Okay, so it start executing it. Okay, so now it is showing as assertion error. It is assertion is failing, but actually the test case is passed because for post endpoint the status code will be 200, right? But in our test script we have written it as 200, so that is the reason it is failing, but the data is created. So if you go and see here, if I click on this particular link, we are able to see what exactly the request body is sent. So Jackman founder is sent to this particular request as a request body, and what is the response we got. So Jackman is created and founder is created and ID is created. Sorry. Here. This create user is there, right? This create user. Okay. Here, if you click and if you say, see here, whatever the input and whatever the output is supplied and getting from this particular endpoint, we can see from here. So this is very useful. See, for example, this we are getting the response body, right? So this we will get the response body only when we select that advanced setting, save responses, right? If I go here again, what I'll do again, I'll do some changes. Okay, so here I'll make it as 2 not 1 now. Okay, and I'll save the script. So here, ah, mm, Jana, okay, ah, ah, ah.